Okay, the purpose of this slightly longer than normal video is to demonstrate how to take down an Excel table from something like SurveyMonkey or perhaps a manually entered mixed methods questionnaire and convert it using automation into a properly constituted NVivo database using entirely automated processes. So this is your typical questionnaire. It's got the first row there, the first column is your record ID, we're just calling that cases, and it's participants 1 to 10. It's obviously fictitious data. And then two typical profiling or demographic questions, age, range and gender, and then two open-ended qualitative questions. Describe what you like doing in your spare time and why you enjoy this activity, and our participants have filled in those open-ended responses. And that's the typically how all of these questionnaires will come at you. So we're going to save it now, close it, and then we're going to import it into NVivo. Back in NVivo, we're now ready to import. So we go to the External Data tab and click on Datasets, which is NVivo speak for an Excel table. I have it conveniently stored on the desktop, so I'm going to bring it in. And we're into this wizard. So I'm going to click on Next. It's found the file. And this is just for to see if I've got more than one sheet, and I only have one in this particular table. So this one is also pretty much one that you can take as a default. It's just confirming that the first row is in fact the fields. And this one is important because it's telling NVivo whether these fields are classifying fields, which will become attributes linked to the cases, or qualitative fields which we're going to code. So these need to be converted to codable fields. Sometimes NVivo picks it up correctly and sometimes it doesn't. So you've got to check each of these fields to be sure that the data you have is either quantitative or qualitative. Then we just need to give our questionnaire a name, and we're ready to import. So we click on Finish, and there's our table in. Next we're going to do three automated steps. The first one will be to auto code out the qualitative questions. The second one will be to auto code out the case nodes, and if you're not certain what case nodes are, there are other videos on the website that you may need to check out which explain the concept of the case node. This particular tutorial assumes that that concept is understood. And finally we're going to extract the profiling or demographic information and link that to the cases. So step one will be to create the questions. I'm going to right click on my questionnaire, my table, and I'm going to select auto code. And this one will select the questions for us, the rows in other words. It's picked up the two qualitative questions there, so I say next. I can tell it what folder to put them into. I have a folder already prepared, and I'm ready to do auto code. And you can see that it's coded both questions out with 20 different references, and if I want to see them, they'll be in my initial coding folder with all the responses to question 1 and all the responses to question 2 from all 10 participants. They look like that when you open it up. They're now ready to be coded on into sub-themes and ready for analysis. My next job is to create the cases, so I'll go back to my source, and again I'll choose to auto code. This time I select this column, this option, which will create rows from my table rather than columns, because it's cases, are all the responses from each participant. It's picked up here if I choose the field cases that these are my cases, and if I say next, it's also picked up that there are two questions to be coded to each case, and if I say next, I can now tell it where my case nodes should reside in my cases folder, and then I can finish. And that's the second of the three automated processes done. I can now go to my nodes, cases, and I can see all my participants and all two questions coded against each of my participants. All that remains to be done now is to link the demographics or profiling information. To do that, I go back to my questionnaire, I click on it, and I select the Create tab. And this option is now active. Classify nodes from data set. So to link my classifications or demographics, I go to classifications, node classifications, and I make a new classification which I call cases. Back in my source, I can click on the questionnaire, and this option becomes active: classify nodes from dataset. It's similar to the previous wizard. I could just follow the steps here. It's not a new node, it's existing nodes, because I've already set up my case nodes, so that's what I want to link it to. I want to link it to some existing nodes, and then I tell NVivo where I've put my case nodes, and they're in under that case. You can see them there. So that's the case nodes I want to link the demographics to. I'm going to check that option. I don't necessarily have to, and you can see again that it's picked up the cases correctly. This screen then asks me which of these demographic fields I want to include, and the job is done. NVivo has now linked those, and if I go to my classification sheet, you can see the cases now have the correct information populated against them. So the concept of the case node is linking qualitative data that people said to who they are, to their demographic profile. If you go back to your nodes cases, you can see that concept. There's participant 1. If I open that, there's what participant 1 said, and then the properties now correctly linked is who participant 1 is. After that, the case nodes basically sit in the background. But when I go to my thematic nodes, let's just take a look at one of the codes that we've auto-coded. I can now cross-reference or correlate using the visualization tool any node or any sub-node that I might code on from that against any of my demographics or profiling information. So if I want to see the makeup of people in a node, I can just select OK to that, and there it is. I haven't coded this on yet into subnodes, so we have a perfect gender balance because it's not real data. And that's the point of the case node, and this video is designed to show you how to import a spreadsheet and link it correctly into a properly constituted NVivo database fit for a really robust inquiry and using entirely automated processes.